Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for January 21st, 2024. In the security and privacy section, Microsoft has moved forward with its project to store all EU cloud data belonging to customers in the EU. So that includes Azure, Microsoft 365, Power Platform, and other Microsoft platforms. This is a project that started about a year ago. It's going to move forward to continue to be implemented in 2024, but at this point, most of the data is already in the EU. So that's good news in terms of reducing their risk from fines. Next, maybe AI developers need to use some AI in developing AI software or finding AI bugs, because apparently they're not doing a good job of it the way it is now. In the past month alone, bug bounty hunters have found severe, and when I say severe, I mean scoring 10 out of 10, and that's hard to do, bugs in multiple AI platforms. The platforms this month that are affected are MLflow, ClearML, and Hugging Face. So those are machine learning platforms. But I think with the speed with which folks are moving, the odds of these platforms being bug-free is basically zero. Next, in the reference department, I only put this in a reference department because I always like saying that when you can learn from other people's breaches, you can save the money yourself. So the Kansas State court system was hit by a ransomware attack back, I think, in November. I think that's right. May have been early December, but I think it was November. And they've been down, out of business. And I think you had the ability to file paper documents. You could, I think, go into the courthouse and search on paper for records, but none of the electronic stuff worked. They're now telling the money folks, the legislature, they need $2.5 million more to recover from this hack. Part of that is due to expenses in dealing with the hack itself, but apparently amongst that is they actually want to hire some cybersecurity staff. Now there's a concept. After you get hacked and after you spend millions of dollars trying to fix it, you think, well, maybe we ought to have some cybersecurity folks on staff. Clearly, it's cheaper to be proactive, but Kansas doesn't think that way. It's also unclear whether any cases had to be dismissed for violating speedy trial laws, which requires trials in criminal cases to be held within a particular amount of time. And if any evidence was spoiled, and as a result, not admissible, and maybe cases were dismissed because of that. So that they haven't told us about. Next, Google plans to taking a play out of Apple's playbook. They're planning to stop storing map location data. That is the location data of every place you've been, every place you've asked about, in the Google Cloud. Now, you could say, I don't know what you could say. Now, I'm kind of the pessimist kind of guy, and I assume that's because they don't like the bad PR from turning over people's location data to the cops. That's my assumption. The reality is that phones are way more powerful than computers were for decades, and so there's no reason why you can't store it locally. I think obviously there's some benefit possibly of being able to sync your map history between your phone and your computer, or if your phone and your pad or something. I'm guessing you'll still be able to do that, but that would be a direct, device to device transfer and not staying in the Google Cloud. The cops are probably saying, "Oh, gee, it's going dark. It's going dark." But think about this: they never had this data for the first 200 years of America, 200 plus years probably. And I'm thinking this is maybe going back to the founding fathers' principles of privacy rather than going dark. So we shall see what happens there, but that's their plan. And I think, fundamentally, you got to look at, yes, there's some positive revenue from being able to sell the data and monetizing the data, but what's the downside of it? And is the upside from a revenue standpoint worth the downside from the PR standpoint? In the patches department, it went a little crazy this week. So SonicWall is patching close to 200,000 firewalls that are vulnerable to a denial of service attack and potential remote code execution attack. Thousands of Juniper devices are vulnerable to a remote code execution attack. Atlassian says that there's an unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability impacting Confluence, Data Center, and Server, all versions. And in addition to that, Citrix said there are 2 0 days in their NetScaler platform, and VMware says that there's bugs in their Atria automation software, which they're saying the flaw is serious enough that it qualifies as an emergency. You need to patch it now. So that's kind of what's going on in the patching department. It's, like I said, a bit crazy this week. So so be it. I'm always the snarky guy. The House introduced a No AI Fraud Act to protect rich people. Well, that's not what they're calling it, but the reality is it's called the No Artificial Intelligence Fake Replicas and Unauthorized Duplications Act. And the reality is, I mean, this is just the reality. This is not being snarky. It's designed to protect recording artists that have multi-million-dollar contracts who are upset that people are using their likenesses and their voices artificially synthesized, and they're losing out on revenue. That's really what it boils down to. Now, in theory, but only in theory, it also targets deepfake porn and other people, but you got to show that you've been damaged, and you've got to pay for the legal fees to go off and go after somebody, or convince the district attorney to go after somebody. And the district attorney is busy with things like murders and rapes and robberies. And I guess if one particular case makes the news enough that the DA is motivated from a politics standpoint to go do something about it, maybe they'll take it up. But really, this is really only for rich people. That's really the reality of it, and it's not clear whether or not that's going to get struck down as a violation of the First Amendment of free speech. Even though people don't like deep fakes, with certain restrictions, they're probably legal. Apple and its on again, off again watch ban. The ban was reinstated. That was the one that Apple wanted it to be paused while they appealed it for a year, because after all, they make a lot more money if they were able to continue to selling watches which their competitor says are infringing. Who knows whether they are or not. The court said no, you can't sell them. So what it looks like at this point is Apple is going to redesign the watch, and really I think all that means is they're going to disable the features which are infringing, and then continue to sell the watch, which is fine. I mean, that's what their competitor wants them to do, not sell a watch that competes with them. And then as the thing goes through the courts in a year, 2, 3 years, whatever, then if the courts rule in Apple's favor instead of their competitor's favor, they can turn the feature back on. But for right now, they're just going to turn. I think this is what they're going to do. They're going to turn off the feature and move on and sell the watches without it. I mean, it's a great selling point, but they've sold watches for years that didn't have that. So continuing to sell watches that don't have it, it's not the end of the world. Have you heard of something called triangulation fraud? I hadn't heard of the term. When I learned what it was, I actually heard of the problem. This particular case happened in Canada, but I've heard many cases of it happening in the United States. Basically, the triangulation is between you and a company like Amazon and a crooked seller and the vendor that they're buying the product from. and you go to jail. Not great, right? So here's a little bit more of the story. So in this particular case, this particular person bought something on Amazon, paid Amazon for it, and the person, the supposed vendor that they were dealing with, then went to Walmart with a stolen credit card, bought the things that they ordered, and had them shipped directly to the Amazon customer. The the person in question, got these boxes from Walmart, and the tell obviously should have been and should be for you that if you're getting boxes and boxes from a company that you didn't buy anything from, you ought to probably figure there's something going on here. And so the hacker who is acting as an Amazon agent, um, makes 100% profit because they're keeping your money. Actually, not 100% because Amazon takes a bunch of it, but whatever Amazon doesn't take, they're making that, and then they're buying the product using a stolen credit card for free. So in this particular case, Walmart is getting a charge back as well. So not a great situation. Um, the guy didn't handle it really well either. He said, "Well, I couldn't figure out. There wasn't a category to report this at Amazon." And I will say that Amazon does make their customer service process kind of difficult. But this is a case where this guy was arrested. He lost his job. He was fired because he was charged with this crime. And I think this is a warning to everybody. If you wind up in a boat like this, then it's really important not to ignore it. If you need help, you don't know what to do, contact us. We'll be happy to assist you. But it's a real thing, and it goes on, and it's very profitable for the bad guys. In the educational department, OWASP, the Open Worldwide Application Security Project, is hosting a number of useful AI resources, including the OWASP AI Exchange, Navigator, and the Large Language Model Top 10 list. This definitely should be in your library. In the breaches department, Singing River Healthcare, which is in Mississippi's Gulf Coast, is not singing at this point. They informed the Maine Attorney General. I'm not sure why it is we hear about this from the attorney generals rather than from the companies involved, but it may just be easier for the news media to find it at the attorney general's office, which is sort of disenchanting. But Crook stole data on about 250,000 patients last summer. They're just now reporting it. Last summer, they said there was 501 people. The reason being is that 500 is the number, the threshold number, where if you exceed 500, you have to report it to the Attorney General and the Health and Human Services. Maybe it really took them that long, 6 months, to figure out what's going on. They did report an increase to federal regulators in October. So why it is they're now reporting it to the state regulators in January is not clear, but I'm guessing there's going to be lawsuits involved there. New York fined a health center $350,000 and maybe potentially another $100,000 if they don't get their act together, and forces them to spend $1.2 million over the next 5 years to improve security. The Rufu Health Center in Spring Valley, which is kind of sort of upstate New York, not really New York City, but a little bit north, probably 30, 40 miles north of New York City. They apparently were just basically ignoring HIPAA, and they had multiple HIPAA violations. And then they were hit by a ransomware attack because part of that was they didn't have any security practices. So the consequences of that are that they got whacked by New York. And New York obviously is one of the leaders in that department. And New York fines folks. Remember from last week, they fined a cryptocurrency firm for not following the rules. So they're going after people. They're fairly aggressive about it. Next, a mortgage lender, Loan Depot, is slowly crawling out of the basement after their cyber attack. They said on January 8th that they were hit by a cyber attack. And then last Thursday, they said they restored some systems, but some have limited functionality. They did file their 8K report as required by federal law, but it really doesn't say anything like, gee, bad stuff happened. We're investigating it. So that's not really helpful. They are required by law to go off and enhance that over time. And I'm sure when the lawsuits happen over this, which I'm sure they will happen, that more information will come out. But they are at least slowly coming back to life after getting whacked pretty hard, it sounds like. And, this is like, we're seeing a lot here in the financial services firms, Fidelity, First American, Mr. Cooper, Loan Depot. And these are big guys. So it's not like these folks don't have resources to apply, but they're, big is not necessarily a friend in a case like this. In fact, big might be your enemy because you got a lot of people and trying to get all the cats herded in the same direction. Sometimes that's pretty hard. Next, the deep fake political ads have started. In this case, it's England. England is soon to have a prime minister's election, and we're seeing ads on Facebook in particular, or maybe it's Twitter, but I think it was Facebook, where they have the prime minister saying things that he never said that are unpopular. I think the nation state actors have figured out it's a lot easier to go off and feed people misinformation and disinformation than it is to actually hack election systems. If you can go off and convince people that this prime minister in that case is a bad person, then you should, without actually saying this, people will then potentially change their mind to go vote for somebody else. I anticipate we're going to see a lot of this in the United States as we get closer to November, and it's going to be a bit of a whack-a-mole game. And there's another deep fake item that I'll talk about in a minute. So this is not easy to go fix. 90% of email is either phishing or just outright criminal. So it's always good to tune up your spidey sense and learn, what are the things to look for. Verizon published some good tips on that. Nothing earth-shaking, but still the kind of things to share with your employees, to share with your family as to what to look for. Back to the deep fake, we're seeing on Twitter now. The last one was Facebook. Deep fake ads using celebrities' likenesses, and the celebrities are shilling cryptocurrency or energy-saving devices or water-saving device, whatever. The ones I like on Twitter the best are the ones that use Elon Musk to shill these things, which is a bit of a thumbing your nose at Twitter, figuring they can get away with this and they won't get caught at it. But we're seeing a lot of celebrities and not just Elon Musk. And celebrities aren't terribly happy about it because it affects their reputation. And the hackers are probably paying for these ads with stolen credit cards, even though these ads are really cheap. Unfortunately for folks like Facebook and Twitter, which I guess make a lot of money, so we don't feel terribly sorry for them. They don't even get to keep the money from the fake ads. So not only do they push these fake ads, now obviously in Europe the regulations are a lot stronger, and so whether or not they do a better job in Europe than they do here, don't know, but they will certainly get whacked harder if they don't. In the news bites for this week, regulators continue to go after crypto firms. They just one after the other because there is two reasons for crypto. One is pure speculation, right? Betting on the betting on the future. But the other is for criminal activities. And so, when it comes to speculation, people really, unless they're trying to avoid taxes, which I'm guessing a lot of people are not, then people don't care so much about, the know your customer regulations. But if the crypto exchanges are hosting criminal activity, then people are really not going to want to go off and identify who they really are. And the crypto exchanges, a lot of them really don't push the issue very hard. New York's DFS, speaking of crypto, got taken out back to the woodshed by the comptroller because the comptroller said that they weren't really doing what they were supposed to do by regulation. And basically, they were overwhelmed and didn't have the resources to do examinations as frequently as they were supposed to be doing them. But the DFS says that they're getting their act together and they're getting more on scale for that. So hopefully that's a short-term problem for New York. EU lawmakers are in trouble for having side conversations with tech companies who make technology that the tech companies claim will help with child sexual abuse material, which the EU regulators are trying to regulate. And so, if you have a situation where the regulators are having these side conversations with companies that might wind up being regulated, that probably is not a kosher thing. So we'll see what happens with that, but they're at least getting called out for it. And the FTC whacked yet another data broker over selling precise location data. These guys will eventually figure it out, but unfortunately, there's a lot of money to be made selling that. So they don't look too hard as to what the company is using it for. And Zuckerberg, after discovering that people really didn't care a whole lot about avatars with no legs, is now saying, "Oh, AI, that's the next big thing. We're going to do some AI stuff." So they probably will, but they're kind of behind the 8 ball. And in an effort to save face, they're going to say, "Well, we're going to marry the metaverse with AI and let you figure out how to use AI through avatars." I think ChatGPT and all the others have figured out how to get people to use AI without avatars. Are avatars really really important? I don't think so, but that's one person's opinion. But I think they're going to focus a lot on AI to try to catch up with everybody else. And we're saying, finally, that the speed with which you patch vulnerabilities is really important. We've seen the Fidelity attack, which exposed data on 1.3 million people last month, was caused by them not patching their Citrix servers fast enough. So if you're not patching critical bugs literally in a couple of days, if you don't know which systems are not patched, you're at risk for being compromised. So with that, that's all I have for today. If you have questions or need help, please reach out to us. Otherwise, until next time, stay safe.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.